Hey, good morning, everybody. I know it's been a little while since I posted a video, but there hasn't really been a whole lot going on in the shop lately. But mainly because I'm waiting for some parts to get back, at least for the BSA. So I thought I would give you a quick project update. So the BSA turned out to have 20 over pistons in it. As you can see, I cleaned up one of the pistons. They're 20 over. They sell 40 over and even 60 over pistons. However, I don't really like going to 40 over, just my opinion. The walls start to get too thin. 60 over, they're really thin. And when I was examining the cylinders, whoever had bored it before didn't bore it straight. So the liners were thinner on one side than on the other side. So I decided to stay at 20 over, and I took it down to my guy in Phoenixville, and I'm having the cylinders Nicosil lined. It's a very durable, actually almost indestructible lining they put in them. BMW and Moto Guzzi have used it for years. But anyway, that way I can keep everything at 20 over. I got new pistons and new rings. So they're gonna Nicosil the cylinders and then bore and hone them for my 20 over pistons. And then when they come back, I will put the bike back put the top end back together. The head, the guides and everything were shot. So the head is over at another machine shop that does all my head work for me. And he's working on doing that. So I gotta wait basically for those parts to all come back before the BSA goes any further. I have been making progress on the Hodaka Combat Wombat. As you can see, I am in reassembly phase. I didn't make videos of reassembling everything because I figured, it's pretty much just a reverse of disassembly. But I figured I'd show you where we're at right now. So the powder-coated frame is there. I got the powder-coated swing arm back on. My brand new shocks. The forks are all rebuilt. I had the bottom fork legs here nicely re-chromed and the fork nuts re-chromed. They were really badly rusted and stuff, so I just gave them to the chromer and got them all chromed. All new tubes and tires, which are actually already on it. All new powder coated triple clamps and whatnot. Brand new handlebars with grips and everything. I polished the stainless steel fenders myself on my buffing wheels. They actually came out pretty nice, so the fenders are all mounted up with all new hardware and all new rubbers. The wheels could use a cleaning. They're aluminum shouldered rims, but I can do that at any time. I just want to get the bike back together and running. So I am making progress on the bike, on the Hodaka. So that's where we're at with that. Not a whole lot more left to do. Put the foot pegs on it, brake lever, and seat, gas tank, coil, and drop the engine in. The engine's gonna need a little bit of work, but I wanna get the rolling chassis done and I can move that off to the side because I have a couple of other projects I wanna do. And then I can work on the engine in between other projects. As if my British bike fascination and the efforts to go into keeping a British bike running weren't bad enough, I decided to add a British car to my ensemble here of motorcycles and whatnot. So I bought a 73 MGB. So last year for the chrome bumper cars, I'm not really going to do a video on this, I don't think. Years ago, before I started doing motorcycles, I used to restore a lot of cars. I had done a lot of muscle cars. And then I got kind of bored doing cars, and I started doing bikes, and I've been pretty much exclusively doing motorcycles for probably about the last 20 years. But I got a really good deal on this MG, and I decided to go ahead and do it. So I'm working on this also. One of the next projects here is going to be, here, we'll go down the list, show you some of my collection here. So I have this 1942 World War II military Harley. that actually came back from Russia. It was part of the Lend-Lease deal. I do have this running and riding. I have a gas tank issue with the fuel shutoff valve that I need to fix because it leaks. But this bike does run and ride. Obviously, it's not a restoration, and I'm not sure what I actually want to do with this bike. This is the way I got it when it came back from Russia. Haven't really decided what I want to do with this bike yet. But one of the next projects you'll probably see up on the lift is this 1970 Triumph T100C. This was a project a little while ago. I rebuilt the top end, all new carburetor. Somebody had put low slung exhaust on it, and it should have had high exhaust, which it now has. Hopefully you guys can see that as I try to squeeze in between other motorcycles here. Also, the tank wasn't painted correctly. I had that repainted. Had the gauges. I got the correct gauges for it. So this has been kind of like a rolling restoration. I do it as I have time, when I'm not riding it, which I'm usually riding it. It's a great bike to ride. However, the previous owner at some point in its life destroyed all the wiring. You'll notice there's no horn switch, there's no dimmer switch. The wiring is just absolutely atrocious with these stupid blue splice doodads everywhere. The wiring is a real nightmare. I have a whole new wiring harness for it, which I'm going to put on, put the wiring all back to stock, get the missing electrical parts like the dimmer switch and whatnot. But other than that, this bike does run and ride. So, but this will probably be the next project up on the lift. You guys have already seen my 67 Daytona. Here's one I restored a few years ago, actually about 2 years ago. Came out really nice, if I do say so myself. This was a total frame off. It's a 62 Bonneville, which is the last year for pre-unit construction and the last year for the duplex frame. This thing was a total basket case when I got it. Has some like extended front end on it, all the wrong body parts, wrong gauges. Really one of the worst wiring jobs I've ever seen on a motorcycle. But the frame and engine and transmission, all the numbers matched, which is why I bought it to redo it. Took a lot of time and a lot of money to put it back the way it should be, but the bike came out absolutely beautiful, runs great. You'll see a future video on this when I can go over it in more detail. In the wintertime, these kind of bikes don't go out, so in the summertime or springtime, I'll take it out. Then I have my 68 Bonneville here. I did do a video where I was riding it around a little bit, but I won't cover that and go into more detail on this bike later as well. For a long time, I collected GS 1100s. I just love the Suzuki GS 1100s from the early 80s. This one here is an 82. GS 1100E has a 16 valve engine. Most always I keep my bikes all stock. This particular bike, I did something unique. It might be hard to see where it's at now, but we'll have a future video on it. I fitted a much wider GSXR rear wheel on it. Now fills up the rear fender a lot better. It looks a lot better. And I have a complete Gixxer front end that eventually one day I'm going to put on the front of it. I need to figure out a few things before I dive into that, because I still want to keep the big giant headlight that they came with. I want to keep my gauges, the stock turn signals. I want it to look as stock as I can keep it. So I'm going to have to make up some custom bracketry. I'm probably going to design and have a custom CNC top triple clamp made so I can try to keep all this stuff. That's going to be a future project. I also put flat slides on it. Bike runs phenomenal. I mean, these things are fast, even by today's standards. Another GS 1100. This one's just got the 8-valve engine. It's an 82 GS 1100L, shaft drive, step seat. Also a great bike for going out and riding on. All these bikes are mine. Over the course of time, we will probably go into each and every one of these bikes, but just wanted to give you a quick little example of stuff you may see in the future. And until I have some more updates, I suggest everybody gets out in the shop and works on something.